Noon. I get a hey, I got a hey. The rest of you, and some of you who are in my other classes should know that the greeting sets the tone for, I feed off of you. So if you're sleepy, how many people just woke up 30 minutes ago? Nice, I appreciate 2. Fantastic. Good napping day. It's cold. Was it a full-on nap? Or was it just straight up sleeping, like under the blankets?
Yeah, I had one class at 8 a.m. and then after that it was.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so so I'm going to talk about a little bit of my trajectory in hospitality. Talk about some of the changes that have occurred, and hopefully some things that maybe you guys can expect when you get out there. And anybody here thinking about hotel management or working in hotels as part of this hospitality thing? That's great. That's great. I wasn't thinking about hospitality at all when I was in high school. I just wasn't. It wasn't something I considered. I was an athlete, and I had a scholarship to go to another university to play baseball. And I hurt my arm in my senior year, and they pulled that scholarship. And so all of a sudden, I knew I wanted to go to school, but all of a sudden I had to choose a major. I had to come up with something. I wanted to have a little bit of direction when I got to university. And I had to pick a school, I had to pick a major, I didn't know what to do. So I went to, of all places, imagine that, I went to the guidance counselor. And I had never really taken advantage of anything the guidance counselor did or offered. So I sat down and I talked to her about where I was at, and she explained to me, she was able to pull out of my file, she said, well, in 8th grade, you took this aptitude test. And here are some things that you may have an aptitude for. And hotel management came up on that. And so I thought, hey, I've always had a good time in hotels. I like going to them. And then I got really practical, and I said, there can't be a whole lot of science and math in hotel management. There just can't be. Because those 2 subjects didn't strengthen me, if you will. So I found a place to go, and I started studying hospitality management. A lot different. I can tell you one of the things that's changed over the years is the complexity of the business. So I was taking courses like front office management. We didn't have any computers at the hotels, in the hotels at that point. So front office management was, if they taught a course like that today, I don't even think it would be something a high school student would benefit from. I had instructors while I was there, folks kind of like myself, an adjunct who was the general manager of the Hilton, and I went to Niagara University, and he was the general manager of the Hilton in Niagara Falls. And I liked his class. He was teaching convention management of all things, and so he said to me, we were walking out of class together, and he said something to the effect, he said, you seem to enjoy this class, you participate, you're engaged, you're not showing up nearly as stoned as the rest of the kids. And he said, have you ever worked in a hotel? And I said, no, I've never worked in a hotel. He said, well, here's your assignment for the summer break, is to go work in a hotel, because you may not like it at all. And so I did. I went and I got a job I lived in New York, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I got a job working in a hotel in Manhattan, and I got a job working at the front desk. And it's one thing to read about this kind of work and to listen to people, but until you really get into it, you do it. It's like anything. Once you get your hands in there. And so I remember clear as a bell, you know, like my second day of work after I got through some of the awkward onboarding stuff that you have to do. I felt an empowerment come over me, because you've seen a front desk at a hotel, right? And this hotel was an adorable boutique hotel in Manhattan, and it felt like I was on stage. I mean, I had the lighting overhead, and people were coming up and they needed my help, they needed directions, they needed me to make change for them. I was checking people in. I felt like there was something very noble about what I was doing, very noble. And so today I understand, and I was lucky because I found the nobility in service work. And it's certain, you know, working in customer service, working in the hospitality industry, it doesn't matter if you're working in a restaurant or if you're an event planner. I mean, you're going to be serving somebody else. You're gonna have 15 different bosses a day. And, you know, for me, I was able to kind of put what was important to me to the side and make what was important to the people in front of me important to me, right? So kind of like that saying, you know, think of yourself less and think more of others. And if you can get there mentally and psychologically, you're gonna do well in this business. If you're somebody who kind of, you know, and you don't have to be a people person, right? You know, I ask so many people, why are you thinking about hospitality? And they go, oh, I'm a people person. And I'm like, well, it's good. What does that really mean? You don't have to be a people person. You don't have to have this over-the-top personality to be successful in hospitality. You just have to understand the customer service mindset. Because that's what it's all about. It's that simple. So if you can get there in your head and know that the public, anybody here work in any sort of customer service, work with the public? Right? Don't they batter you around like a rag doll? Right? They want what they want when they want it, and you have to deliver it with a smile. They have no idea what else you're doing at that time, but all they know is they need something, and you're the delivery vehicle for that. And so if you can get your head around that and deliver exceptional customer service, meaning, you know, you smile, you appear to be authentic in the way you do it, you're gonna be okay. At the end of the day, you're either exhausted or you've got an adrenaline rush, right? So if you're an extrovert, anybody here think they're an extrovert? Yeah, so you extroverts, I love you guys, you're amazing, right? Because extroverts go to a party and they look at it and they go, wow, look at all these new people I can meet. Where I'm an introvert, and so I get to a party and I try to typically find a little quiet place. I'll sit at a table and maybe talk to 3 or 4 people the whole night. But I mean, I'll talk to them for a long time. You know, I'm not flitting around. My wife is an extrovert. And so when we come home from a party or some sort of gathering, you know, she's supercharged. I'm exhausted because that's work for me. Making clever conversation, small talk doesn't come easy for me, but I'll talk more about having to deal with that. So you're either gonna have this big adrenaline rush when you get off your shift at work, or you're just gonna be exhausted. Either one is fine. So I finished school, I go through, the following summer, I worked at another hotel. I worked in reservations, and I enjoyed that. That was a different piece of the hotel puzzle for me that I was able to check off. And then when I got out of school, I took a few months off because, you know, school is exhausting. And took a few months off, and then I got a phone call from my dad. They were living in Chicago, I was living in New York. He goes, hey, jackass, you gonna try to find a job or something like that? I said, yeah. So then, we're talking about 1981. So I had my resume. You guys will all create a resume at some point. I had a resume, and so what we did back then was we did a direct mailing, right? I did a direct mailing. I had like 200 resumes and 200 cover letters, and I mailed them to every GM of all the hotels I wanted to work at in New York. And lo and behold, I got a phone call from the general manager of a hotel in Manhattan. He said, "Hey, I got your resume here. We'd like to talk to you." And so I got a job as a sales manager at a hotel called the St. Moritz Hotel. And I didn't have any sales experience. I really didn't know much about sales at all. And they didn't provide any formal training. There was, so they looked at me and said, "Okay, see that building at the end of the street? We want you to get in the elevator, go all the way to the top floor, and knock on every door on the way down." And you ask them questions like this: "Hey, do you guys ever bring people in from out of town who use hotels?" And it took me a couple of days to get comfortable with a spiel, and people, shutting doors in my face, because that's what happens more than anything if you're selling. Doesn't matter what you're selling, people are going to say no to you more than they're going to say yes. And so that was another psychological hump I had to get over.